you can't build what you want to build. You have to build what the market allows you to build. I actually think, like, personally, that dynamic is the major unsolved piece in crypto. It's behavioral. It's social. I think most of the technical infrastructural side is now done. Crypto does that cycle on steroids because there's the financial incentive at the core of it all.
Welcome to another episode of The Local, where we bring people in from in and around the crypto scene. And today I'm joined by Charlie Varley from Bloom. Charlie, we've met a few times, but never in the UK.
Never in the UK, always abroad.
Always abroad, which is part of the perks of...
Part of the magic.
Part of the magic of being in the crypto industry, yeah. So I think we've met, well, certainly the last time we met was in Hong Kong at Consensus. What have you been doing since then?
I've been deep in the thick of it.
Seriously?
Yeah, we're launching our new product soon. So it's...
That's exciting.
Late nights, urgency.
I've let right ahead past all the important stuff.
Straight into
it. If for people who haven't come across Bloom or Charlie before, what were you doing before crypto? Was there a before crypto for you?
In some ways. I mean, I came straight out of university, straight into crypto.
Right.
So
straight
good 9-10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a master's on a crypto topic. I built a wallet for my master's thesis.
Wow. So that must have been relatively early in the industry.
Very early, yeah. This was sort of 2017.
Okay.
So industry was very much in its infancy.
Did it take some convincing to get the faculty to sign off on a...
I didn't mean to get into it. It was I'd put down...
I can imagine a professor going, no, don't understand this, I'm not going to market.
No, they have a very big blockchain sort of department at UCL.
Yeah.
They had that since very early on. But no, it was I put my name down for AI or crypto. Whatever dovetailed into would have paid off, I suppose, in either direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somehow landed up in crypto, yeah.
And that was 2017. And so that was like post-university straight into
the deep end, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. I didn't think I when we spoke before, I hadn't really realised it had been that transition straight into it.
Yeah, and I worked for Layer 1. So back in 2017, one of the top 10 chains was a chain called IOTA, which is very forward-thinking with vision, Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, machine economy, a lot of concepts that are finally come to fruition through the agentic piece. But I worked for them for a number of years, was director of engineering, oversaw all of their software for consumer-facing stuff.
What a great experience straight out of university.
Yeah, I mean, from a kind of contextual point of view, leading into what I do now is almost ideal. I covered every single part of the stack, whether it was the actual protocol itself, the explorers, the consumer-facing side. It was truly at the core of what it means to build crypto from the foundation up. And I think that's given me a sort of fundamental and foundational knowledge that I think is quite rare in the space.
Do you think that only comes from working in a successful Layer 1?
I mean, you could probably get exposure jumping around different businesses. But I think that the reality of it is it depends where you sit on the stack. I think you can very easily get almost pigeonholed into one particular bucket. If you're always at the consumer layer, you're going to be restricted in your understanding theoretically. So
yes, okay.
I think that sort of comprehensive understanding Layer 1 ecosystems is particularly interesting. Also, community building is sort of exactly what crypto is at its core, right? It's online communities, forming and operating, and it was a very unusual time. I would say this was sort of Ethereum is kind of starting to become a thing that people are aware of. Most people only really knew Bitcoin at the time, and it just expanded from there. And I mean, these days the chain is so vastly differently regarded than it was back then. It was sort of each chain was almost its own sports team. And
I remember,
people dying on a hill.
People were very ferocious and parochial about their affiliations and what was good about their particular setup and ecosystem.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Very tribal.
Yeah, I kind of miss those days, like where people would, die on that hill. But it is more collaborative these days, I think. Aside from like the occasional Solana-based
spat.
Yeah.
I've seen that pattern before. I don't know if it's just me sort of picking up on something that's not there, but that being almost too early, and then the rest of the technology catching up to be able to deliver what is actually possible. You've kind of seen that in different areas, not just in crypto, but people building on top of visionary work or just being visionary themselves and saying, of course, this application of this technology will do this, and this. I'm going to go out and build these things. And the rest of the world almost needs to spend some time just distilling what's possible before it can catch up.
I mean, it works in both directions, right? So I think as a founder, anything I've learned is you can't build what you want to build. You have to build what the market allows you to build at this given moment in time. And I think that was true of IOTA. They've kept on with that same vision. They're very much still in that game. So I think that pays as well, is if you have the conviction to stay with something for an extended period of time, eventually you are the expert in that field far beyond others. And so the connections you've made and whatever else put you in a very strong position. But works in reverse as well, right? We were building wallets for a long time. And by the time I was in a position to be starting my own venture, wallet space was totally commoditized. Right. So started out building a wallet, got pretty good traction, issued 20K MAUs or so. And then we were like, well, no one wants to fund a wallet.
This was the genesis of Bloom?
Yeah, well, I mean, the latest incarnation. So we started as a wallet, built that product, and then realized there was this gap in sort of the confluence of social and finance. And we've been digging into that ever since. And I think that's especially interesting now, is essentially everyone is kind of forming a confluence around this singular point where you've got X is doing smart cash tags, you've got Robinhood Social has just launched. So every major financial platform, every social media, they're now looking at how do we integrate finance into this as well. So it's validation, but
big validation, but competition as well.
Certainly,
But nice for early investors to see that they've got validation in potentially backing you guys, because the rest of the market is recognizing the opportunity.
100%. But it also forces you to evolve. So what the initial incarnation of Bloom was hasn't dramatically changed, but the refinement that's taken place over that period of time, a lot of it's been encouraged by competition. And I actually think, again, like as a founder, one thing that is incredibly valuable is to be able to know what is coming ahead. So if you can think 2-3 years in the future at all times, which is tough, right? Like how are you going to constantly innovate and know what's coming? But if you can do that, it puts you in a very strong position, because people pigeonhole themselves, right? You release a product at a certain point in the market's life cycle, you find yourself in a position where you're now stuck within that realm. You have a certain user group, a certain user category. You have to keep,
and their expectations are pretty solid, solidified around what you've got out there.
So I think it's you just have to be incredibly flexible.
That vision thing is something we work on a lot here. I don't think we've ever been to the point where we're 2 or 3 years ahead. We spend a lot of time thinking about where the interesting stuff within the trading world is happening. We were quite early into prediction market stuff, because we were like, okay, there's some very good corollaries to what we do in our core business that are playing out here, and it fits incredibly well with our thesis about how risk transfer is going to change in the next 10 years anyway. And so we were very aware of what was going on in the space, and it's nice, as you said, to get the validation as you see more and more prediction markets come to the fore. Like, okay, there's others that are seeing the value here as well.
100%.
And so in a short summary, how would you describe Bloom in its current incarnation?
So traders come and share theses and ideas on the market. That is backed by a verifiable position.
Okay.
Each trader has a reputation and track record over time. And at the other end of the equation, retail users have a single surface where they can get exposure to stocks, crypto, RWAs, prediction markets.
Hugely valuable.
Every major asset class has come on chain. And so what we really refer to it these days as is a market intelligence network. Almost an altogether new category.
Okay. I like that. Has that gone into a pitch deck recently?
It hasn't yet. We're
market intelligence network. Okay.
Yeah.
And is that as a function of having all of the asset classes there all in one place? You're able to do a lot of interesting
and totally unopinionated, right? Like you think about a lot of the venues, Kalshi, the prediction market, historically they've now moved in the social space, very natural evolution for a prediction market, share your bets with friends, etc. But I think where we have strength is we have no horse in any race. We can serve every single
whichever market,
execution vehicle or market.
And so will just from a more practical technical perspective, a user of Bloom would need to have their own accounts opened in these venues to be able to access them through Bloom?
It depends on the protocol. Many of these protocols are totally open in the sense that you're trading on a DEX aggregator, you trade on DEX aggregator, you're trading on Hyperliquid, you trade on Hyperliquid, you're trading on Polymarket, you trade on Polymarket. So that's the beauty of on-chain accounts, and we're at a point now where it's all abstracted. easy to manage, no seed phrases like it was once back in the day.
Yeah.
So we just try to make it as interoperable as possible. If you want to come in with an existing extension model, you can. We're not going to try and force you to change your underlying premise of how you interact with things on chain. Similarly, if you want to come in completely fresh and sign up with an email, a passkey, you can do that as well and have an entire standalone Bloom wallet as part of the wider product.
That's fascinating. And in terms of the team and what you're looking to do in the next period, I know that you, like us, you build in the UK, right? So are the majority of the team UK based?
Fully dispersed.
Fully dispersed.
Truly remote. Yeah. Even, I mean, my co-founder is also based in the UK, but she's up north, and we don't see each other that frequently. So it's very much like the purest remote setting. We've got people in Germany, historically we've got people in Italy, South America, India, like all around the world.
I mean, so many questions. Hiring, I would imagine, is well, it's clearly possible. We've sort of, as you know, sort of taken the route where everyone is in office majority of the time, and we took that opinion based on needing to have those small conversations that engineering teams have, particularly when you're building, I think, trading systems. There's a lot of like small decisions that aren't hop on a call level decisions and make a discussion, but it's just back and forth or problem solving and stuff like that. But we've interviewed people who wanted remote roles, and we've got to the point where we were like, oh, it's a really good candidate. Are we going to sort of lose a good candidate because we're not willing to have someone work remote? And how would that work with the existing team where we've said that they all have to be in the office? You know, when do we make the first concession? And it will happen because we're growing. And so, you know, part of two things. We're growing, so we will have people outside of the UK at some point soon that, you know, inherently won't be here. But we're also quite a long way into the infrastructure build now. So that requirement to have that sort of intensity is fading. Yeah, exactly. But I'm always fascinated by fully remote teams in terms of how you manage the cadence of just understanding as the founder of this, what's going on at any point in time. How do you do it?
I think it depends on team size. I think we're still 10, 11 people, so it's still very manageable to have the information flows. I think there's certainly things you miss out on from being purely remote, right? I think in a in-person setting, you can certainly motivate people because you're literally there and you have visibility and accountability. So my sense of it is the biggest things are you have a pool of wealth of talent that is truly global. So if you're trying to get the most value for resources,
that's fair.
You can do a lot. We can do a lot with it. And then, I guess the other side of it is only certain personalities suit that setting.
Yes,
100% the case. So there are people who just are not built for remote work.
I'm one of them.
It varies. I don't know. Like I think some people having a consistent routine working from home never worked for them, right? Yeah. What happened in COVID? Everyone went home, and some people managed it, and some people just when everything went to absolute chaos.
Yeah, that's me. I think that's my one sample one of one is the COVID situation. But I will caveat by saying I'd had almost a whole career's worth of working in trading floors before that, where I still think all of the banks require people to be in on the trading floor. It's not a remote working culture, and so that nature or nurture. I just got to the point where I could only really function with an element of bustle and noise around me, but not at home, and not being able to recreate that bustle and noise in a COVID-based situation at home was very tough.
Hard to kind of stay focused.
Yeah, but I worry as a founder that I'm imparting that on the business, and I'm using all these clever arguments about.
I think both work. I think both work. There's things that we certainly miss from having a remote setting. I think FaceTime is incredibly important, and to have a level of motivation with extended periods of not actually physically being with someone is tough psychologically. So there's definitely that downside to it, but I think we've been fortunate. We've just got a very good team of guys and people who are very able to sort of drive themselves in whatever scenario. But of course, you need to meet every once in a while, come away with a renewed sense of purpose.
You always want to feel that you're hiring people who are, regardless of whether it's in office or not, just self-starting and
100%. Yeah.
If you get a good number of them out of 10 hires, if you get 6 or 7 of them, I think you're doing well, because it's not an easy thing to screen for during interviews.
Yeah, it's never going to be perfect. Like you're never going to get 100% hit rate with it as well.
I mean, my wife has hired a huge amount of people during her career, and across some very, very good businesses, and she reckons her hit rate's around 55% in terms of whether they were like really, really good hires or just like, okay.
Very good.
Very good, yeah.
Which Steve Jobs adage, right? Of A team, B team, C team players.
Yes, so yeah, exactly.
Got to hire A team because B team attracts C team.
Yes. You're UK based. Do you like working and building in the UK?
Yeah. Perfectly pleasant for me. I mean, I'm the original work from home. I've never worked in an office. Straight out of university, IOTA was a German company, German Stiftung, so it's always been remote. So yeah, for me, I don't know. I'd happily work from everywhere, but I have family commitments that tie me down into London and the UK. And
similar. I mean, ultimately, I think the reasons why we as a business didn't sort of consider starting elsewhere was, we knew that we could get the talent that we needed in the UK. When we also have, from a practical perspective, we have family here as well. And so if it'd been more marginal, I think we could have found ourselves in low tech starting elsewhere. Yeah.
But I mean, the UK crypto scene's burgeoning. It's starting to come together, and it's been quite disparate for a long time, I would say. But I think, London's a great city, and I think that there is a sufficient wealth of talent within the crypto industry. It's just been separated.
It has been separated.
And increasingly, there's sort of an intention among the people who've been here for a while to pull it all together and get everyone involved.
Mechanisms and
Telegram chats and
and just more events, I think. And I think there are various
Zebu
sort of groups that do a good
pushing
job.
The way,
Zebu,
Flight 3 guys,
the Super Team, do a great job as well. And when we try and do our little bit with our meetups, have you been along to one of our locals yet?
I think I've tried to. They haven't lined up yet. Maybe into I saw you had a nice one in Cannes.
Cannes has been a highlight the last couple of years. Yeah. It was our first putting our brand and heads above the parapet last year once we
put yourself out there.
Yeah, put ourselves out there, and we had a growing business, and we were like, we want to thank the people that have backed us and welcome our current clients and talk to some prospects. And the team here did a wonderful job pulling that together, and we kind of
sort of production. It's very high quality.
And, I mean, well, the place the whole setup lends itself to looking nice, and then
French
this
Riviera.
year, it's not a day-to-day activity for us, unfortunately.
Maybe that's why we should be remote working from.
Yes, I do, and the guys here know it. I spend the next when we got back last year and when we got back this year, both times I've spent the next 2 months kind of wistfully pining for that whole setup. It is nice. And it's the reason it's a lovely place to go, and people like going there. I agree with you that the UK crypto scene, certainly when we started, I mean, it's late in the evolution of crypto, but it was hard to find people who said they were building in crypto in London. But now, maybe it's just because our network's got wider and we know more people, but there seems to be a very good cohort that are here. And I think, London's always been quite good at certain aspects, finance clearly.
Yeah, I mean, we were the original financial sector.
Of course,
well, we should be the centre for crypto, but both have taken a hit.
Yeah, but I think with big companies like Google having a huge presence here for a long time, DeepMind and the AI game being really strong out of the UK now.
Cambridge.
And UCL and stuff, right?
Yeah, as well.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good sort of interesting innovation happening. In terms of crypto, if you spent your whole career to date in the space, you must have had quite a lot of those conversations where you bump up to people who still their only awareness of like crypto is Bitcoin maybe and sort of that sort of thing. But what if you flip it on the other way around? What do people in crypto get wrong about the real world? Because as you said, we can get quite fervent camps who think that this particular tenet of decentralization has to happen, otherwise the world's going to end.
I think that's gone.
Yeah, you think so?
I think the practicality has won.
Yes,
possibly even too far in some regards. I think like back in the day when I was first getting into the space, there were a lot of ideologues, a lot of people who would, libertarians, Bitcoin standard, all of these ideas were floating around, and everyone's just sort of, reined back from that and realized that, practicality wins in the end. And I think there was this, anti-financial system of old mentality early on in the space. And obviously, again, from a practical point of view, you always had to lean into that for crypto to come to fruition. Yeah. So Yeah, I feel like arguably it's gone too far. There's definitely cases of architectural, infrastructural level of centralization that does detract from the core facet of crypto. I often wonder, like, this whole, perps dynamic is wonderful use case, but there are certainly some drawbacks of perps as a case, right? You have less sort of physical control and ownership over that asset.
Yeah.
You do technically own it, but not every single perps protocol allows you to transfer it between parties.
Yeah.
You can only mint it from one platform. In the case of on-chain stocks by way of perps. So there's certainly lots of areas of the space that sort of this constant to and fro. And I think we have found quite a good midpoint of practicality.
Yeah, I agree. We've seen that a lot in the last 6 months. Is the adoption that's happened across the capital market space and driven by big obvious banner headline projects like Hyperliquid and others. Has meant, I think, some of the original crypto people that we interact with are a bit down. They're a bit like, this wasn't what it was meant to be. But I think maybe that adoption piece and the traditional finance sort of co-opting crypto is at an extreme.
Yeah,
there's still a lot of space behind.
And I think it'll come back. I
think
practicality enables adoption.
Yeah.
Seamless accessibility in a way that wasn't previously the case. But I think the long tail will be that it will return to the more decentralized on-chain rails for everything, because it is just justifiably better.
Yeah.
If feasible, right? I just think there's so many pieces that are now solved that the kind of things you bang your head against the wall when you're building wallets back in 2017, where it's crazy to think of how many of these infrastructural pieces have been solved.
We talk about this a lot.
Yeah, account abstraction, chain abstraction, private key management, like all of these things that just seem like intractable problems at the time. They've now quietly gone.
Yeah, been solved.
And it's always like, as soon as these are solved, we're going to achieve mass adoption. Yeah. It's just, I think you have to taper your expectations. Like, everything operates on a longer time frame than you expect. I think even 2017 was insanely early as a technology space. So people always trying to find like comparisons with the advent of the internet and like line up the cycles.
Yeah.
And you always, you have this sort of exponential increase of technology adoption where it should be such that as you move later in time, technology should be adopted faster. But I think crypto is a particularly new and unique case because it's financial infrastructure. So it's something that is incredibly old, incredibly slow.
Yes.
That touches and goes through every single facet of society. It's not going to be a smooth adoption.
No, and the risk profile and risk tolerance for people that are in the space is very, very low for lots of good reasons. Particularly when you're dealing with money that isn't yours and it's client money, and there's a lot of risk inherent with doing that. And so the adoption's slow, and then the decision-making process to bring in relevant pieces of infrastructure into that environment that might be new or very novel is going to be very slow as well.
Isn't it? How do we ensure that this is done in such a way that it doesn't totally disrupt things?
Yes, but I love the micro incentives. Well, thinking about the micro incentives, when you've got someone in, let's take bank's the easy example, who would be making decisions about adopting a technology that could remove whole elements of things that they've done before, that's going to be a hard decision for them to possibly take if it means that their job is going to be impacted and stuff like this. And so you get these sort of micro incentives that are not...
It'd be a bureaucracy,
perfect. Yeah. That's a great catch-all for it.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And so... in terms of Bloom and the way that you guys are taking it now, if I come on there as a user, I can go and follow someone and I can look at their track record. How's their reputation built? Like
we actually rely on a third party for reputation
for scoring.
Ethos. Yeah,
and that's reputation of them as an individual, not with how good a trader
as an individual. Yeah, so it's totally detached from being a trader.
Okay.
It's literally a metric on integrity.
Okay,
and that's all it's intended to be. If you think of an environment that is encouraging people to trade off each other's ideas or invest off each other's ideas, and it's a social environment, you can't have bad actors.
No.
It undermines the entire premise of it. And it's not like these are going to automatically filter out on their own accord, right? You do need some level of collateral and accountability on the line, and what do you have beyond reputation? Not a lot, right? So I think it's a very interesting field to be working in, because obviously our intention is that it does transform how the individual retail user gets exposure to finance, and vastly improves that understanding and interpretation, which has never really been something accessible to them. Right?
Interesting.
They had an execution vehicle, but they've never had that. Why am I doing this?
Yes.
And so there's a lot of responsibility when you're operating in that field, because it's finance, it's money, there's things at stake, and if things go wrong and people lose money,
it impacts them. Yeah,
impacts them. It's not even us as a business. It's just almost like a moral obligation that let's ensure that this, as a system, foundationally functions in such a way that it just gradually moves towards high quality.
Better. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I was going to ask you about building, like, just if we abstract away from crypto in general, what, obviously you were around startups straight out of university, so you maybe got to observe the way that startups and building happens. But since you've been your own, doing this under your own steam as an entrepreneur, what have been the things that have caught you out that you've been surprised about?
It's a good question.
I can give you context and give maybe your feed off this.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the mind share that this business has in my head.
Yeah, over consuming your entire life.
Yeah. And yeah.
I think it's
I wasn't prepared for it.
Well, I mean, you hear all of these like slightly kind of tired ideas that being a founder is incredibly isolated and lonely journey, and you read all this and you're like, okay, cool, and then when you're actually in the environment, you're suddenly like, I can fully empathize with that mentality. And I think it's I think it's something that can really define you as a person. If you're someone who is susceptible to reacting to a negative news event or something going wrong, it's going to be a tough ride.
Yes.
Almost. Yeah. I think, like, analogy, right? You come in as this kind of a rough stone, and you're in this river, and you're getting barraged and battered around and frozen all over the place. And eventually, you've been in that really tough day-to-day environment and stream for so long that you just become this smooth pedal.
This beautiful pebble up the back.
Lovely zen pedal. Nothing can really,
It's very true, though. I mean, even I think back a couple of years, the highs and the lows that can be ensconced within a single day are just incredible. I mean, and we still get them now. And I think all of us within the business have learned to just emotionally regulate ourselves a bit better because...
for sure.
I talk about this in relation to having young family and stuff. The only constant is change. It's slightly different in early startup. It's the only constant is like volatility of outcomes and results that you don't often have a huge
no control over. Yeah. I mean, it's a journey. I love it. I couldn't see it any other way now. I think once you've been in the gauntlet, I think it'd be very hard to... exit the gauntlet.
Even if like Bloom becomes its fullest realization of where you want to take it, it's like, okay, great, done. That's packaged up. Pass it on to someone else. What's next?
What's next? 100%. And I think that's a way that that sort of ambitious desire to always better and do something more and challenge yourself. I think that's sort of the most important tenet of all, right? If you're not enjoying it, despite the pain and the anguish, why are you doing it? I suppose.
I mean, I completely agree, but for me, it manifests in the constant learning. But there's not been an environment I've been in equivalent to this in terms of the constant learning that we have to go through. With me, but across the leadership team and the new decisions we're having to make, the new information we're having to assimilate quite quickly to be able to make a 30% informed, cogent decision about something. That's a privileged place to be in because a lot of jobs like out there in the world are not, as well. They don't offer that opportunity of, change and learning, and being a founder, being an entrepreneur has been the one that's really sort of brought that home to me.
Yeah. And I guess, you guys, you have 3 founding?
3 of us. Yeah.
3 is a perfect number, I think. Yeah.
You think? Well, it's just you for Bloom.
No, it's 2 of us.
Okay.
But I do think that there's an upper limit on it, right? But for some reason, my gut feeling is that 3 would be optimal for a founding team, because I think there's just such a division of responsibility. With 2, it's like for a significant portion of it, you're both treading water because you just have well beyond your possible kind of outlay that you could manage in a reasonable way. Okay, you're effectively treading water at all times. And I think 3, the vision and separation is such that you're set up for things well. I don't know if you've noticed that.
We've been quite lucky. There's been a separation of skill sets across the 3 of us. We also had a sort of test period where we worked together as employees of another firm. And so like working styles, we'd got exposure to that before sort of leaping in together, which I think was
I think you work with someone for a long time. That's what founder relationships always boil down to. Like, can you trust each other? Do you work well with each other? Yeah. And I think that most founder dynamics end on, or at least most startups end on a relationship basis.
Yes,
right? Where
agreed.
they just batter and can't kind of align.
With that emotional intensity, the intensity of going through the project itself, but that dynamic is often, I think, the graveyard of lots of startups.
Yeah, 100%.
And we've been quite lucky with that. I think that period where we worked together prior to starting this was, incredibly useful, and I think informs a lot about the way we approach things.
And you've also done it, and I think that's the important thing. Like, if you're a founder who's done what your team are now doing, you're in a very strong position. If you're coming in, I don't know, fresh out of university or whatever, you're going straight into, you have no experience, or maybe you're a non-technical founder, had no exposure to anything technical historically. I think it would be very tough.
Very hard.
Yeah. Because you're basically telling people to do things you know nothing about, which obviously over time you have to learn to be comfortable with doing. But I certainly think that pays dividends. I wouldn't found a company straight out of university. I think that would be absolutely insane.
I think there's a trend towards that though, and there's an attraction to the founder lifestyle. I've got this, and
it's a roll of the dice. A lot of people make it work, and some of the you see a lot of successful cases of founders recently who are in their early 20s, and there has been historical ones as well, but it's an anomaly. Absolute anomaly. The amount of people who would try and fail, you don't hear about. But yeah, it's definitely a young person's game.
Thanks very much.
Well, I'm getting on so well a little bit.
I don't see any greys in that lovely hair yet.
Well, I'm trying to maintain my sleep.
Are you still in the code on a day-to-day?
No. Well, I mean Claude code.
Yeah,
a little bit of Claude code. Yeah. No, I've not been coding for probably 2-3 years now.
Were you coding at the beginning of Bloom? It was sort of
when we started out, like minimally so.
Yeah.
Like I'd already transitioned. I was an engineering director, so I was still hands-on code reviews and everything else before I migrated to Bloom. But there was less day-to-day coding. It was sort of already declining. But no, we're a very, very engineering-heavy organization.
Yes.
Like internally, it's me plus 10 developers, effectively, inclusive of Nicole, CTO and co-founder, because she still develops as well. And then, external design resources who kind of almost sit within the team.
Yeah. And so who does like community building and
it's me.
It's you.
Yeah, it's me. And actually, when we came out of stealth, we had quite a successful kind of blitz of excitement and interest. And we had, very, very active Discord. Suddenly 15,000 people in there.
Organic, like...
organic. Like, we obviously did things to stimulate the initial snowballing effect. But, there was a moment in time where you couldn't read the chats because they were just pinging constantly.
That's awesome.
Which is insane. But what was really nice about that was that you actually got volunteers. So we have multiple mods, community manager type people who do it off the back of their own volition because they're interested in the vision. I find that sort of...
giving from people, like it really touches a part of you, which is like people.
It's great, it's not forever. Like I think this is the part of it that people need to recognize is you can't. Having come from the layer one ecosystem, I know after an extended period of time, if there is no incentive, eventually it's like, well, why am I doing this, right? So I think it's a careful balancing act, and I think like the intention for us is that these guys will become, when we're at a point to actually employees in some regard.
Yes, okay.
So it's interesting. I think this is sort of something that's particularly true of crypto and online communities. Is you have
people get involved.
Yeah, people just getting involved. They just the love of the craft. It's like the. I don't know. I read a really interesting article about the sort of sub communities and how they form online and how. You have the builders who come in first, and then you have the second wave who are the fanatics, and the fanatics are happy to come and dig in and
give time and
everything else, and then
evangelize and
eventually you get the sociopaths, which changed the dynamic. And there's this sort of progressive relationship with these things where sociopaths come in, and then this attracts what they call MOPs, members of the public, who don't really seem to contribute anything, but they're kind of just there. And then the cycle repeats and continues, and the builders hate the sociopaths, of course, and sociopaths kind of profit from the situation. Now, I applied this to the crypto life cycle, and every single bull run, I would say,
you see this.
You can see the same cycle playing out. Yeah, I can't remember the article's called. It was interesting.
That sounds great, and I imagine, I mean, particularly within the more local examples of communities, certainly around perp dexes and stuff, over the last 6 to 9 months, you've had exactly that cycle, but you've got the added sort of complication of there being potential rewards that people are turning up.
I think crypto does that cycle on steroids because there's the financial incentive at the core of it all. But it also breeds the bad behavior at the same time. I actually think, like personally, that dynamic is the major unsolved piece in crypto. Is behavioral. Is social. I think most of the technical infrastructural side is now done, but it's I don't know, like, it depends how you look at it, right? Like if you're coming from the outside as like, I watch your YouTube video and I invest in Bitcoin, and, I'm doing this as a means to make money, but you're not kind of deep involved in the industry or the culture.
Yep.
You don't see all of the sort of undercurrent, right? But if you're like deep in the thick of it, you have, all of these kind of volatile asset classes like meme coins, where there's a whole culture within that. And because there aren't guardrails, you have problems occurring. You have like, effectively bad behavior, right? People just using it as a vehicle through which to extract and whatever else. So I think that's probably the largest unsolved thing. And I think the threshold of kind of what is considered acceptable is lower than it should be.
And what solves that? Regulation or something else? I think is there a technical solution?
Yeah, so there's a technical side to it, right? Like everything we're doing around reputation is one way of solving this, right? Like in our case, we can't have bad actors in the Bloom ecosystem because it will just they will extract and it collapse the whole system. But I think in the broader ecosystem is more just it's the same in any social group, right? Like when you have a collective behavior that is unacceptable, you as a kind of collective group need to come together and repel that. Self-policing. And I do think that because you have this promise of riches and increasingly young audience who come in and, almost potentially hyper gambling through meme coin exposure and things like this, make it very, very fast. They become a status symbol. This attracts, a new wave of people wanting to also, hustle their way up to become that status symbol. And I think it's just placing principles in the wrong place ultimately. It's like the status isn't the thing we should be looking at here, and I think that's what
that's fascinating.
Undermines things.
And I mean, I'm not an expert in it at all, but you see, I've just observed similar dynamics in influencer space as well. Sort of whether it's Instagram or TikTok and stuff, it's the same sort of mechanics happen. Where it's not explicitly a group that's maybe linked to a meme coin or a particular subculture within crypto.
You're watching the Louis through manosphere.
Exactly. So that sort of thing. A lot to do there. And so you're right, though, reputation is right at the heart of this. Charlie, that's been absolutely fascinating. I could talk to you for hours about this sort of stuff. I know we've spent a lot of time chatting over the last 6 months in various parts of the world, and I hope we continue to do that. Thank you very much for coming in. And where can people find you and where can they find Bloom?
Bloom.social.
Bloom.social.
It's mysterious right now. It's a big, beautiful portal.
I looked at it again this afternoon. It's not my first time on the site, but I was I wonder if they got a bit more than they had last time. No, it is
we're about to though. So it's a good time to get involved with things. We're going through the motions towards the full launch cycle right now. So,
well, how do you look so fresh?
I don't think I do.
Charlie, thanks very much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim.